Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk about a subject that actually nobody, or answer to a question that nobody has actually ever asked about me on this channel. But you often see me wearing different kind of t-shirts, like David Bowie shirts and so on. So I thought that it would be fun to discuss with you about everything but the Beach Boys for a moment. So the title of this video is The Other Stuff That I Listen to Outside of the Beach Boys. Well, obviously I listen to a lot of Flame, Bruce Johnston, Mike Love's solo material. So that's a joke. Okay. But I listen to Flame. Flame is great. Okay. But let's not talk about those. Let's talk about completely other stuff. And my question for you is, I know this might not be so interesting to some of you, or a lot of you viewers. It might actually get only like, I don't know, like 100 views if I'm lucky. But I would like for you to write a comment about, like, are you familiar with these artists or these groups? Or do you have other favorites? And you can ask about, like, do I like those? That's like one thing. But the main question that I want to throw at you is there anything on this pile that I got over here? Oh, over here. Big pile. That you would like to see me talk about more on this channel. But let's get into it. The Bee Gees, or Bee Gees. This is one of my favorite albums by them, even though Robin is actually not on it. But Cucumber Castle from the early 70s, it's a great baroque pop album, kind of very folksy. I really love it. Anyway, Bee Gees, one of my favorites. I have almost all of their albums. I'm lacking a few of the first ones, including the very, very first American release, or, you know, European release. Which is a shame, it's a great LP. But yeah, I have almost all of their LPs, and this is one group that I really would like to talk about. Because it's, for example, this one is a super great album, so underrated. It's filled with amazing tunes, super beautiful music. Kind of very similar to some of the Beach Boys stuff from the late 60s, early 70s. Like I mentioned, David Bowie. I have a lot of David Bowie shirts, and David Bowie was, for me, and has been always for me, very important. I have loved his music since I was a kid. I remember when Reality was released. My mom's been a big fan. She saw him perform in Finland during the Reality tour. It was one of the last concerts that Bowie did, like ever. And oh man, I wish I could have seen that, because my biggest dream for 10 years or so was to see David Bowie live. And I was so sure, even though he was retired from touring, I was so sure that he's gonna do like one big, like I don't know, like a farewell tour or something like that. But it never happened. So anyway, one of my favorite albums by him, by the way, Outside. Amazing, underrated 90s album. I have almost all of David's LPs. I'm lacking still some of the very early ones, but most of I got, you know. The Beatles. Once again, one of my favorite albums by them. For a long time, it wasn't considered like a real album, but I think these days it is. Magical Mystery Tour. Very underrated album, even though it's kind of like a singles collection, but it's still a great listen through and through. And I love all the, like the, you know, other songs, like Baby You're a Rich Man and so on, like all the not so famous songs on the album too. The Beatles is for me a group that I've always known of, even in the, like when we were studying English at elementary school or primary school. Which one is that? I don't know, like the very early stage. In the English books there was Beatles songs, and I remember I thought, like, this is like ancient music. Hello Goodbye, by the way, was one of those songs, because it's kind of like an English lesson. So I always liked the Beatles, but I've always been turned off a little bit by the fandom and this sort of god-esque stature, or, you know, the sort of the thing that, like this pedestal that the Beatles have been put on, because after all they're just one group, you know. So there you go. But the Beatles are great, you know, I like them a lot. Another Male artist. By the way, it's not like a thing. Like I do. There's one female artist on my pile too. I do listen to female singers too and artists. For some reason, I often think about this, but I like to listen to female voices more. Like I listen to a lot of ASMR, for example, and all of them are females. I like female voices, but then when it comes to music and singing, for some reason, I prefer male singers. Don't really know why. There's no reason for it. But Leonard Cohen, this is one guy that I got to see live, and oh man, it was amazing. It was one of the best concerts that I've ever seen. Yeah, amazing, amazing stuff. Various Positions from the 80s, classic album. I think I got... Oh, I'm lacking still one Cohen album. It's the Dear Heather. It's very hard to find. So, all the rest I got. But Leonard Cohen, one of my all-time favorites. And we got some bluesy folk rock or whatever, Grateful Dead, Working Man's Dead. Classic album, one of their best. And I think everybody should have this album. It's amazing. Yeah, Grateful Dead. I found Grateful Dead, I think it was through Beach Boys. Because I was reading about those, like the discussion boards about the Beach Boys. A lot of times the Grateful Dead somehow just came up. And people talked about the shows that they did together, and it just got me really curious about them. And then I also heard them pop up in movies, their name, and yeah, I don't know, I just kind of instantly fell in love with their style and the music and the variations, like all the different genres that they did. My least favorite era of them is this sort of the super psychedelic era of the late 60s, those few albums, Auxo, Moxo, and so, like, that's like my least favorite stuff. I know for a lot of fans that's probably their favorite era, but for me that's not really, that was sort of very proggy psychedelic thing. That's not really my taste. I like more of the sort of the bluesy things and the folksy things, and also sort of the pop version of Grateful Dead of the 80s and early 90s. I really love that stuff. So anyway, Working Man's Dead could be their best album. I don't know, maybe I like American Beauty a little bit more, but I also like actually In the Dark a lot, and almost all of their albums, love a lot. Shakedown Street, I don't know, Go to Heaven, great album. Leonard Skinner, one of my favorites early favorites with ZZ Top. Really loved Leonard Skinner as a teenager. I still do, and I'm still super impressed by their stuff. Like even this, like their debut album. You spin this one, and oh man, it's crazy to think that this is a debut album because it's so well played. The songs are great. It sounds like the seventh album of a solid, prolific group. It's pretty crazy, super impressive, and oftentimes overlooked. I don't know why. I think it's probably because people sort of, at least in the States, I guess, kind of think of them as this sort of hillbilly redneck thing, and in Finland they're very respected and everybody loves them. So I don't have that sort of connection. I think they're super cool. Anyway, Leonard Skinner, yeah, one of my like early favorites, and I still love them. Prince is one of these artists too that my mom was a big fan of and still is, and she got to see Prince too live. I didn't. Oh man, what a bummer. But yeah, just a genius guy, and I only have a few of his albums. I would like to collect all of them, but there's so many. But Purple Rain is an obvious classic, and I love all his hits, and I've never heard a bad song by Prince. And I'm just always so impressed by his abilities to do really anything. He could do it all, and that's crazy. And a lot of times it's so easy to think about Prince and just think about this sort of the fashion stuff and sort of the what you call that, like the cover, like it's like a fancy cover. But it's so easy to overlook him and his abilities and his talent. He's a phenomenal songwriter, musician, singer, guitar player, and I would easily put him up there with Brian Wilson as a musical genius, and many others too. Great guy. Oh, I know, very controversial. Hot Space by Queen. I love Queen. Hot Space is one of my favorite albums by them. Amazing album, 80s, amazing synth pop rock. I love it. Yeah, Queen is one of those sort of early favorites too. I remember hearing Bohemian Rhapsody the first time, and I was just blown away by it. It was on the radio, and I was like 12 years old or something. And oh man, it was just so amazing. And then I loved Another One Bites the Dust and all the hits. And Queen is just one of those groups that when you spin an album by them, you are so impressed with almost all of the tracks. It's like, wow, like it's just the performances, the quality of the performances, and Freddie's voice. It's just, one of the best singers ever. So, yeah. My favorite song on this album is probably Cool Cat. That's just a super cool song. I love it. Phil Collins, another controversial one. I don't know why. I've always loved Phil since the 90s, since I was a kid. Always known of him and always loved his music. One of the very first artists that I really dug as a kid already and a teen. And yeah, it would be nice to talk about his music. But Phil Collins is an interesting character because he's not, I don't know, it's hard to talk about him. He's respected. He's so talented. And the compositions, his singing, he's up there with the greatest singers of all time and, one of the best drummers of all time. But he's kind of so perfect. It's just so hard to talk about him. Kind of like with Prince, a little bit similar thing. Peter Gabriel from Genesis too. So, Genesis is actually, I prefer Peter and Phil both on their solo over Genesis. It's kind of funny. I only have one Genesis album, but yeah, I love Genesis too. But yeah, Peter Gabriel, got to see him live too once, and would love to see him again. But anyway, phenomenal songwriter, performer, singer. Yeah, just love the debut album is phenomenal. I love the ending with Down the Dolce Vita and Here Comes the Flood. So beautiful. One of the best album closers of all time. Rod Stewart, I just got to see him like a week ago live, and I wasn't expecting anything because, well, he's 80 years old. So I didn't want to build up any expectations. So I didn't watch any YouTube videos or anything. I just knew that it's gonna be like a greatest hits show. But I was so blown away by his voice and his energy. And it was very pure. The show was very pure rock and roll, and yeah, super cool. You would have never thought that he's in the 80s. Like, he looked like he's in his 60s, and sounded just like in his 40s maybe. Super strong voice still, and a great concert. And this is not the debut album, but one of the first albums and sort of his big breakthrough. Really love his early work. Not so big fan of all of the sort of the super, I don't know, sappy ballads and all that stuff. But the rock and roll stuff that he did in the 60s and 70s, oh man, super cool stuff. And this album is amazing. Then another guy that I've seen a few times live, 3 times actually, Bruce Springsteen. Nebraska, maybe my favorite album by him. Still kicking strong and still sounding just like he did in the 70s, which is crazy. He is such a strong performer, and I have a lot of his albums. I think I actually have all of his albums up until, I don't know, maybe Tunnel of Love. After that, I'm not so interested in the studio albums. I know there's still some few here and there, and I love the Western Stars and the one Magic, yeah, that one I love. So there's still great albums which I really want to get, but anyway, Nebraska, great album, kind of overlooked and underrated. Even though I know he's quite famous, but I think Bruce Springsteen deserves much more love and recognition from the music community too, like the rock community. He is just a, very important figure and very influential. And then we get into blues. I got a few blues albums over here. Robert Johnson's collection, the second one. Robert Johnson is super cool. I like to listen to him in the summertime. And these songs just are so timeless and some really haunting, really beautiful stuff. Anyway, John Lee Hooker, got a few albums by him too. He's got like 200 albums, so I'm not gonna collect all of them. It will take a while, but Burning is a classic. It's kind of a big band album, so it's not like a good representation of his style really, but it's got the classic boom boom and, anyway, great album. This is a reissue. Yeah, I really love his voice and his guitar playing. Anything really by him, especially the Hooker and Heat album. That one I would really love to have because it's so freaking groovy. I love that, but I don't have it. Johnny Cash, once again, one of my big favorites. Johnny Cash can sing anything, even if it's like a really horrible song, it's still Johnny Cash, So he did a lot of stuff, like the Chicken Song and some like really kind of bad stuff. But oh man, the American recordings and especially the later stuff and also the early stuff, both of those eras sort of are just super cool. Yeah, some of the best music ever put on tape, if you ask me. And then we are almost at the end. Well, obviously I have over 300 vinyl LPs, so that's not a huge collection, but I'm very picky with what I want to buy. But I have a few movie scores by Ennio Morricone, which Ennio is one of my all-time favorite composers, up there with Brian Wilson and a few others. Once Upon a Time in America, great freaking movie by Sergio Leone. Anyway, phenomenal score. I got to see Ennio perform a few times live, and those were amazing with the symphony orchestra. Oh man, amazing stuff. Another one, Nuovo Cinema Paradiso, Italian movie, one of the all-time best movies ever. Amazing score by Ennio Morricone, and yeah, check that out. You need to really listen to the score, check the movie out. Amazing movie. Anyway, another filmmaker. Well, Ennio wasn't a filmmaker, but Christabel and David Lynch. This is the latest album and the last album that David put out while he was still living. He died just a little while ago. And Christabel, actually saw her live once. Oh man, once again, one of the best concerts. It was just this tiny club, and if you know that Christabel is kind of very, how would I put it? Like, she is mesmerizing to say the least. And her style is just kind of, yeah. So anyway, it was just this tiny club, and the stage was like on the level of a couch, like 50 centimeters from the floor. And I was standing right at the front, and there was no barrier or anything. So she was like right there where the camera is. You always hear about these intimate concerts, like intimate setting. It was an intimate evening, intimate setting or whatever. But that was intimate. And there was this one song, this one part of that song that she looked straight at me and sang like 20 seconds, like right there, looking straight at me. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Anyway, so she did a lot of work with David, and this is their last collaboration. I have only listened to it once. I haven't even unwrapped this. I should really give it another chance. But David Lynch's music, overall amazing stuff, especially his collaborations with Angelo Badalamenti. But I really love Christabel's stuff too. So yeah, and then there's obviously a lot of Finnish music that I love, Finnish rock, and you don't know of them. It would be so fun to do a video about like Finnish rock music, especially for you foreign viewers, because I think you might learn something, but I'm not sure if there's enough people that are actually interested in some of like stuff like that. But there's some really cool Finnish stuff that I know that you would love. And it's a completely different language, so it's kind of interesting how it works with the rock setting. It works completely differently because it doesn't have vowels. I think that's a vowel called in English, you know, A, E, you know, those letters. So it doesn't have those as much, so it doesn't flow. English is so easy to sing because you can do this you know, it's kind of clunky. So it's different. It's kind of hard to write lyrics in Finnish. But yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of film scores. That's one big thing that I really love. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you hopefully soon again on the next video. Take care. Bye bye.